Tonight, legal action. An Aberdeenshire mother is taking on her local authority, claiming her child with additional needs is being failed by the education system.
Despite 2 years of advocating and fighting for assessments and for alternative placements to be considered, the authority have refused to give her alternative placements, and it's resulted in her now being unable to attend school.
Also tonight, police investigate after a 21-year-old was critically injured in Inverness. Officers sealed off a number of streets in the city. And in sport, the misfiring Dons draw another blank as they remain at the bottom of the Premiership. We hear from boss Jimmy Tilleen on the need to turn their form around, and we have a look back on the weekend action. Good evening, I'm Norman MacLeod, and this is the STV News at 6, live from Aberdeen. An Aberdeenshire mother is taking legal action against her local authority, claiming her child with additional needs is being failed by the education system. Due to a lack of specialist schools and provisions in the northeast, she fears she may be forced to travel more than 100 miles to access a specialist school. It comes as the number of cases against local councils over additional support needs has risen by around 40%. Brian Agriachan reports.
We're already her speech and language therapist, her educational psychology, her teacher, and we should just be her parents.
Natalie's daughter Erin hasn't attended school in more than a year. She says a broken education system is failing her daughter, who has additional needs.
She experienced quite a lot of anxiety and trauma around the school environment, which you can understand. Unfortunately, despite 2 years of advocating and fighting for assessments and for alternative placements to be considered, the authority have refused to give her alternative placement.
Natalie's now been forced to take legal action against Aberdeenshire Council to access a specialist school. But this could mean having to travel more than 100 miles if successful.
Because of the lack of specialist schools and the lack of support that exists up here, is to actually look at schools 2 to 3 hours away, and considering basically, living, going and living down there for the week and coming back home for weekends, splitting our family in that sense.
And she isn't alone. Across the country, the number of tribunals against local authorities over ASN provisions is rising, with those providing support seeing around a 40% increase in the amount of cases. A report earlier this year found that the Scottish Government had failed to plan for its inclusive approach in schools.
We're probably seeing slightly more than we would anticipate for the population size of the North East. We've got the large size of the geographical area, the availability of travel and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of issues within Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire that need to be tackled.
Stephen's recently won his tribunal, which found his local authority guilty of breaching his son's human rights. Connor has focal cortical dysplasia, which can cause uncontrolled epilepsy, hypermobility and ADHD.
Connor is being treated through primary school as an inconvenience. I would say it's been just a complete unwilling to move to assist Connor and help him in any way.
Stephen says children like Connor are slipping through the cracks and that educational reforms are needed to help them thrive.
There was a couple of instances where he was given a fidget box and told to do that whilst the other children did harder maths work. All of these little comments to Connor really battered down his self-esteem.
An Aberdeenshire Council spokesperson said they have 9 complex needs provisions, covering 4 standalone schools and 5 integrated within mainstream schools, and that they have the resources and expertise to support children with additional and complex needs. The Scottish Government previously said it's invested an extra £28 million to provide more ASN support. For parents, they say a fundamental rethink is needed to stop any more children from suffering. Gráinne Nigrahen, STV News.
Police are investigating after a 21-year-old was critically injured in Inverness. Officers sealed off a number of streets in the Merkinch area of the city. Police said detectives remain in the area and inquiries are ongoing. Nicola McCally has the latest.
Well, there's a major police presence remaining in the Merchant area of Inverness this evening. A number of streets remain cordoned off with police vehicles stationed at different points, and there are a number of alleyways in the back area behind me here, just off Grant Street and heading into Nelson Street. This follows on from when officers were called to a report of a serious assault over in Telford Street, a number of streets away. A 21-year-old man was taken to hospital and he remains in a critical condition this evening. Detectives have been going door to door, and Police Scotland say they will continue a police presence here in this part of the city, and anyone with information is asked to contact them. Nicola McCalley, STV News.
Up to 400 jobs have been saved at the Scottish bus manufacturing company Alexander Dennis. It says it'll keep the sites open after the Scottish Government pledged £4 million towards a furlough scheme to protect roles. The financial support will only be made available when the company shows they have future orders. It's confident orders will come after an increase in demand for buses. Keir Starmer said he would never have appointed Peter Mandelson as US ambassador if he knew the detail of his friendship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The Prime Minister was speaking for the first time since having to sack his ambassador in Washington, with questions being asked over his judgment and leadership. Our Westminster correspondent Paris Goutsianis joins us. Pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister, Paris.
Indeed, Norman, and because this is the first time we've heard from the Prime Minister since he sacked Peter Mandelson, that left the field open to days of questions about what he knew, when and why he didn't grip this issue and solve it a long time ago. There's even been talk amongst Keir Starmer's critics about who might follow him as leader of the Labour Party. Now, that might be Westminster getting a bit overexcited, as it occasionally does, but it shows the depth of anger and upset among Labour MPs, particularly at the state of the polls and of the economy and the leadership they're getting from Number 10. So far this month, Keir Starmer has tried to relaunch his government, but he's lost his deputy, Angela Rayner. He's had to sack his US ambassador, and today he's also lost a senior aide who had to resign over insulting and sexually explicit messages about the MP, Diane Abbott. So it was crucial for the Prime Minister to come out and defend his conduct and his actions on the issue of Peter Mandelson.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him. Because what emerged last week were emails, Bloomberg emails, which showed that the nature and extent of the relationship that Peter Mandelson had with Epstein was far different to what I had understood to be the position when I appointed him. On top of that, what the email showed was he was not only questioning, but wanting to challenge the conviction of Epstein at the time. That, for me, went and cut across the whole approach that I've taken on violence against women and girls for many years, and this government's approach.
Remember that this all comes ahead of the arrival tomorrow of Donald Trump, the US president, for a historic and crucial state visit with trade deals on the line, including a possible deal on removing tariffs on Scotch whisky. Neither leader wants to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein, particularly the US president, who's faced difficult questions on this in the past.
Indeed, and Paris, there's been bad news today for the leader of the Conservatives. What's the latest there?
Yeah, that's right. So a really significant defection from the Conservatives to the Reform Party by the MP Danny Kruger. Not just any Conservative MP, but a member of Kemi Badenoch's shadow cabinet, someone who is deeply respected by his Conservative colleagues, many of whom will be considering their own positions now. Kruger said the Tories were over as the significant opposition to the government. It's clear that for both main parties, Nigel Farage's reform is the real threat.
OK, Paris at Westminster, thank you. A new exhibit in Dundee is exploring how designing jewellery can help people in their recovery from addiction or complex trauma. Healing Through Craft showcases designs developed over the past 2 years as part of a series of local workshops. Held at the city's V&A, the work will be on show until the end of September.
There's been lots of impacts that lots of different individuals have had, just from feeling more confident maybe coming into the museum now that they see their own work on display, bringing their families along, which we really encourage them to, and also just to see that their work is really worthy to be displayed.
Drug and alcohol addiction can affect every single family, and we have to come away from any derogatory or negative terms. You know, there's a holistic approach for families, for as a community, as a city, that we have to support people on a really long journey to get into recovery and to stay in recovery. And I think that's what I would love the city to be, the city of recovery, where we're supporting people from every aspect of their recovery journey.
Hollywood actor Brian Cox has become patron of a group trying to save Broughty Castle. The Dundonian said he would be proud to accept patronage of Friends of Broughty Castle, which he praised for preserving the integrity of the attraction. On a visit earlier this month, the star urged the City Council not to ignore Dundee's heritage. Now, £1 million is being served up to help introduce tennis to youngsters across Scotland. It's an investment which is aiming to inspire a new generation of talent as participation in the racket sport continues to grow. With more, here's Sol Sivright.
Tennis in Scottish schools just became more accessible for thousands of young people. These Primary 7 pupils in Perth are benefiting from a £1 million cash injection aimed at helping schools deliver tennis more widely.
The ambition is on the back of the success we've had in tennis and growing tennis and the players playing at the highest level in Scotland, is for kids in Scotland and young people to actually have the opportunity of trying tennis.
The LTA Youth Schools programme is already making a significant impact, reaching more than half of schools, with more than 2,000 teachers now trained to deliver the racket sport. This latest investment is receiving high-profile support from former Scottish #1 Anna Brogan.
The opportunities aren't always there, and trying to bring that to kids in schools to get them started, and this, provides them then there's links to clubs and things that they can then carry the sport on if they choose to do so.
There's so many different things, and it's not all just one station that's the same thing as all the other ones.
We've been doing reaction times, so they've been putting a tennis ball under your legs and over your head to see how long it takes for you to do it. We've been trying to hit the spots, which means you go against the other people. We do rallies.
They said how fun it's been, with big smiles on their face. It's clear that they've really enjoyed it.
There's so many people, it's like a community in its own.
Almost 300,000 children play tennis each year. Tennis Scotland and the Active Schools Network want to give every child the chance to pick up a racket. No tennis court required.
The programme's really flexible. It meets the needs whatever facilities the school have. So as you can see today, there's a range of different equipment. They can use any space, games hall, dinner hall. Part of the programme provides the equipment to the schools. It also gives the teachers a little bit of training, and so gives them the confidence to run some tennis sessions for the children in the school.
The funding announcement comes as discussions continue around securing a tennis centre of national significance, ensuring Scotland can keep building on its proud tradition of serving up world-class talent. Sol Sivright, STV News.
Now, the popularity of wild camping has surged in recent years, but so has the amount of damage being done to the countryside by irresponsible visitors. After yet another summer cleaning up piles of rubbish, abandoned tents and fire pits, those living around a Perthshire loch are calling for new powers to stop it being trashed. But the authorities say they're looking for practical solutions short of a camping ban. Here's Susan Nicholson.
Cluny Loch is a well-known beauty spot, just a few miles from Blairgowrie. It's popular with paddlers and swimmers, and a great place for a picnic. But it's being blighted, even trashed. This video of an abandoned campsite was filmed in July, after a weekend where part of the lochside was swamped by visitors.
It's toys, it's the whole tent, it's their barbecue, it's everything. We've got the littering in general, fly tipping, so you've got broken glass, cans, nappies, remains of food, people toileting outside. We've got portaloos, but they can only manage so much.
Emily Crichton and her mother, Teresa, live close to the loch and have been the target of antisocial behaviour. After several flashpoints, Local residents have been advised by the police not to approach rowdy visitors.
I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe at home. You know, the fact that my elderly mother and I were both assaulted. I know that before we got here, somebody was stabbed for asking campers to move. That is completely unacceptable. And if we lived in an urban area, it would not be tolerated.
The loch is designated as a site of special scientific interest and a special area of conservation. But the preservation group is concerned that legislation designed to protect it isn't being enforced. They want bylaws to be introduced to ban overnight camping and the lighting of fires.
I would actually like the government to take this more seriously everywhere, and I'd like Nature Scot to start doing hands-on work. They need to get outside and not in the office and see what's actually going on. There is a problem still that we need to deal with nationwide.
It's a view shared by landowners' body Scottish Land and Estates, which wants to see changes to the Outdoor Access Code.
It's just reaching a level now in some of these areas where it's just gone beyond what is acceptable by any level. Local authorities, the police, Nature Scot, they're all trying to do, as they say, the best they can. But really more needs to be done. And it seems to be a case, well, it's really the responsibility of the other body and then the other body. So it just gets passed around like a ball, and really tackling these problems is just not happening in the way that it should.
We don't want to bring in bylaws or enforce things that will ruin it for people who want to use it responsibly. What we want to do is everybody to have access and want them to use it responsibly. All the leaders of Perth and Ross Council, all the party political leaders have written to Nature Scot, and we're looking for some advice of what we can do in that area to help.
Nature Scot has ruled out a review of the Outdoor Access Code for now and points out that there are existing laws to deal with issues like vandalism, littering, antisocial behaviour and dangerous parking. The agency describes bylaws as a last resort and says it will continue to work with locals, the police and Perth and Kinross Council to try to find what it calls practical solutions to the problems here. Susan Nicholson, STV News.
Well, it's time for all the sport with Chris and news of another difficult weekend for Aberdeen.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Hello, a very good evening to you all. Yes, under pressure, Aberdeen manager Jimmy Tilleen says he realises he needs to start winning games and quickly. But he added he saw encouraging signs with the number of good chances created by his new signings in the goalless draw with Livingston. Well, Aberdeen, though, are still bottom of the table with no points and no goals after 4 games.
If ifs and buts were pots and pans, if chances were goals, if football games were decided by judges, etc, etc. But for Aberdeen, none of these things are true. You can't win if you don't score. And Aberdeen didn't score and didn't win. Again. That's the headline, and it was acknowledged by Don's manager Jimmy Tilleen, who looked and sounded as frustrated as the fans who'd booed him and his team.
It's difficult to see positive things right now because of the frustration everybody's sharing, but it was not so many shots against us today. The chances we created in the first half and the last chances in the last part of the game were quite big, and that sometimes when you're on this, the rhythm is not really there. You miss timing and you don't really get in. So the only thing to do is to connect the team and keep working and don't stop now and keep focus on try to win the games and get a performance when you also deserve the results. Right now, we're not really there, and that's why we have to do more.
Could Aberdeen have won? They created so many chances, many involving star turn but game-rusty Jesper Karlsson, they should have taken at least one. But football is cruel, and Livingston will rightly point out they also kept a clean sheet and could have done better with a couple of their chances. The moment which summed up Aberdeen's luck came with almost the last kick of the ball. Sub Marko Lazetic's deft turn and shot cannoned back off the post. and the Dons' fourth game without a goal was concluded.
The expectations are really high to play in Aberdeen Football Club as a manager or as a player, and we have really high expectations every season to arrive in Europe, to try to win a trophy, and nothing has changed there. We're trying to be strong in the direction of how we're building the squad for the future, the long term, but right now our focus is to get these wins, and so we can use this long term, but right now in short term we have to win games, and when you see like how much it means, and that's what we have to go out there again. Our fans are there, and we have to give them a little bit more to then also the performance-wise, and then hopefully also results.
Aberdeen get a rest from the league, but not an escape from the pressure when impressive Motherwell come calling in the Premier Sports Cup quarter-final this Saturday. Well, while Aberdeen prop up the table, Dundee United are far closer to the top end, and but for a late collapse against Hibs could have been even closer to joint leaders Celtic and Hearts. Well, Dundee defied a first-half display that saw them booed off to earn a vital point against media darlings Motherwell. And in the last hour, both City clubs have begun the appeal process on the respective red cards for Vichko Chevet and Jan Danda. Here's Callum Clark.
Saturday night is for blockbusters, but this was no movie night. This was a 6-goal and controversial red card thriller. Halloween is more than a month away, but Hibs dressed up as Celtic to celebrate their 150th anniversary, and then promptly watched on as United gave them an almighty scare to go 3-1 up just after half-time. But while Hibs striker Kieran Bowie reduced the deficit almost immediately after what looked like a foul on Vichko Chevet, it took a second bizarre VAR intervention to hand parity back to the home side, allowing them to draw level with a late penalty to deny United the victory.
Vichko Chevet just pushed the Hibs player to the ground. His arm is out there for that reason, and the ball has hit off him. I think it's a really harsh rule. I would hate to be a defender these days. I would hate to be a referee as well, having to make those decisions. But from our perspective, we feel as if it's 2 points dropped. You know, you look at the goals that we've conceded here today, a couple of mistakes for the first two, and obviously, you know, a really, really difficult penalty decision to take. And then obviously, to add to that, you know, Vichko Chevet gets a red card and is going to miss the next game. And obviously, he's a really important player for us.
Dundee fans are perhaps beginning to believe a little more that this season might not be quite as bad as they first feared. Motherwell certainly held the upper hand in the first half and were a Tawanda Maswanise goal to the good, but a shape change and a bit of brilliant football saw Luke Graham level with a great header, and with a bit of luck could have taken all 3 points had VAR decided the push on Simon Murray was a penalty. Elsewhere, Celtic overcame a lukewarm fan protest to beat Kilmarnock 2-1 with another controversial late VAR awarded penalty, while Hearts won at Ibrox for the first time in more than a decade to heap even more pressure on Rangers manager Russell Martin. Callum Clark, STV Sport.
Still very early days. Well, to ice hockey now, and the Dundee Stars enjoyed a blistering start to their Challenge Cup campaign this weekend, stunning Elite League champions Belfast Giants 7-4 away before thumping rivals Glasgow Clan 6-2 at the Dundee Ice Arena last night. Well, clearly buoyed by the shock result in Belfast, the Stars matched Glasgow for 2-2 at the end of the first period before crushing the visitors with 4 goals without reply in the second and third to top their group ahead of the visit of 5 Flyers tomorrow night.
Total team effort both nights from start to finish. Timely goal scoring, timely saves, timely penalty kills. Everybody bought in from start to finish. You know, we talk about doing all the little things, all those little things that have the big things, and you see with the results the last 2 nights. 2 very good teams that we played, both Belfast and Glasgow. Good start to our cup campaign here. Long way to go here. We got lots of things to clean up still in our own game, but the effort's there, and that's the biggest thing for us. And they're all correctable mistakes that we made.
Yeah, great start for Dundee Stars. Hopefully that form will translate into the Elite League proper when it starts in a week or two. That's all from me. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Well, Philip is here with the weather. And Philip, what's in store this week? Hopefully some good news.
Well, Norman, I think it's safe to say conditions have certainly turned autumnal, and for this upcoming week that theme continues. Taking a broader look at the week ahead, tomorrow looks set to be the best day of the week weather-wise. Not exactly beautiful wall-to-wall blue skies, but overall drier and brighter for most with lighter winds. It doesn't last long, however, as then our next area of low pressure arrives from the west overnight, and that will bring with it heavy rain and strong winds on Wednesday. There is a glimmer of hope, though, for the second half of next weekend and the start of next week as high pressure approaches from the Atlantic. So let's just focus on that to get us through this week. Let's take a closer look at what's in store over the next couple of days. Here is the forecast.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we're seeing low pressure pulling away to the north and the northeast. So this band of showers that's just on the back edge of that low pressure will continue for a time. Then through the second half of the night, it slowly slips southwards and things will be turning dry through the early hours of tomorrow morning. We will see some clear skies, could see some mist and fog patches forming in some rural spots, given the clear skies, lows of around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. For most towns and cities, though, sitting in double figures. Looking ahead to Tuesday morning, a fairly bright start to the day for the vast majority of us. Any mist and fog patches that have formed will burn off once the sun comes out. Then throughout the course of the afternoon, the chance of 1 or 2 isolated showers making their way in from the west. Nothing too heavy though. Less showers around than what we've seen yesterday. More in the way of brightness, and that means that temperatures will be up a degree or two compared to today. Highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees Celsius. Overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, our next frontal system will move in from the south and the southwest. That brings with it patchy rain and drizzle for most of us by Wednesday morning. That front will clear to the northeast. The main focal point on Wednesday, though, is the strengthening winds. With low pressure just off the west coast, it does mean the western coastal parts will see some gale force winds and highs of around 16. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And that's the way it looks this evening. I'll be here at the usual time of 10:30 with an update. I hope you can join me then. Have a good evening.